Hello, Bali YouTube channel.
Imagine you're standing in a massive stadium. Right.
Oh, I can picture it.
Yeah, 80,000 people packed in. The air is just incredibly thick, the lights are blinding, and there's this electric, almost unbearable tension humming through the crowd.
Right. Everyone is just waiting for it.
Exactly. Or, maybe you're sitting in your living room halfway across the world staring at a screen, and then suddenly, a single unifying beat drops.
And instantly, everyone knows it.
In a fraction of a second. Every single person in that stadium, and millions more at home, recognize that exact beat. You feel it in your chest before your brain even consciously registers the melody.
It's a physiological reaction.
It really is.
Yeah.
But here's the massive question for today's deep dive. How do you scientifically, mathematically, and culturally engineer a single song that appeals to 8 billion people at the exact same time?
I mean, you're talking about the holy grail of the modern music industry right there.
Right.
Because we aren't just talking about writing a catchy pop song, We are talking about engineering a cross-continental cultural event.
Yeah.
One that carries the emotional weight of entire nations while simultaneously satisfying the really fierce demands of a global market.
And that is exactly our mission today. We are tearing apart the newly released 2026 FIFA World Cup anthems to figure out how these massive tracks are built.
And why they're entirely changing the playbook.
Exactly. A playbook that the industry has relied on for literally decades. We've got a really fantastic stack of sources for you on this deep dive.
Yeah, we've got some great material today.
We do. We're looking at a comprehensive academic study from the International Journal of Philosophy of Culture and Axiology, which basically maps the sonic and lyrical evolution of these anthems from 1986 all the way to 2022.
Which is a huge time span to cover.
It is, and we're pairing that with some really sharp cultural journalism that tracks the global explosion of Afrobeats.
Crucial for understanding the new tracks.
100%. And finally, we are utilizing a brilliant, highly technical musical breakdown from Songwriter's YouTube channel to sort of deconstruct the actual acoustic anatomy of these new anthems.
Right, which is vital, because to understand why the 2026 anthems like Die Dying Goals sound the way they do, we first have to establish what the World Cup sound actually used to be.
Right, the baseline.
Yeah, and the historical data from that academic study reveals a massive paradigm shift. If you go back 40 years, these anthems were incredibly singular. They were like isolated events.
Wait, singular in what way? Do you mean musically or thematically?
Well, both, actually. The researchers point specifically to the 1986 World Cup in Mexico.
Okay.
The official theme song was called A Different Kind of Hero, and it was sung by Stephanie Lawrence, who is, primarily a stage actress.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and when you listen to it, the song is steeped in this very traditional, almost theatrical romanticism.
Sort of dramatic.
Very dramatic. The lyrics are entirely focused on individual solitary heroism. It's literally about a single warrior galloping through the battlefield.
Which honestly makes perfect sense for 1986, right? Because that entire tournament was defined by Diego Maradona. Yeah. Like, he essentially put the entire Argentine national team on his back and won that championship almost single-handedly with some of the most legendary and controversial plays in the history of the sport.
He really did. And the researchers note that the song retroactively became a personal hymn just for him.
Wow.
It was a solo analog ballad designed to celebrate a solo hero. But that format was entirely dependent on a very old-school, almost gladiatorial view of sports.
So if the analog solo hero is a relic of the 80s, when did the formula actually break? Like, when did we get the blueprint for the modern stadium anthem we know today?
Oh, the undeniable turning point was 1998 in France.
Oh, Ricky Martin.
Ricky Martin, The Cup of Life.
Of course.
That track completely rewired the physiological mechanics of what a sports anthem was supposed to do.
How so?
Well, we moved away from the solitary hero's ballad, right? And we introduced heavy, driving percussion, Latin horn sections, and most importantly, mandatory crowd interactivity.
Interactivity. You mean the call and response, like the go, 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 ale, ale, ale parts.
Precisely. From a structural standpoint, The Cup of Life wasn't written to just be listened to.
Right.
It was written to be
Hello, Bali
participated in.
YouTube channel.
The study tracks a very explicit shift in the lyrical content across these decades. Writers stopped focusing on a militaristic sort of quest for glory,
And started focusing on what?
on a celebration of multicultural unity and the love of life,
That makes a lot of sense.
because you want the crowd physically singing. The physiological effect of getting 80,000 people to chant in unison actually releases a massive amount of collective adrenaline.
It's almost like watching the evolution of the Olympics, if you think about it.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Because in ancient times, the Olympics started as a very strict, localized test of individual military might. But today, it operates as this massive, collaborative, global cultural festival.
Yeah, exactly.
But wait, this brings up a massive creative problem.
That's up.
Well, if your goal is to appeal to literally everyone on Earth by blending every culture into one song, isn't there a huge risk of the music just becoming, generic?
Oh, absolutely.
Like a watered-down world music smoothie where you blend so many ingredients together that you can't actually taste any of them.
That is the exact trap that a lot of international collaborations fall into. When you try to be everywhere at once, you often end up being nowhere at all.
Right.
And that is the specific mathematical equation that FIFA and the major labels are trying to solve for 2026.
So how do they solve it?
You don't solve the generic problem by watering things down. You solve it by tapping hyper-specific, fiercely authentic regional superstars who already command massive global loyalty, and you force them to collide.
Which brings us to the two tracks dominating the conversation right now for 2026. Die Die by Shakira and Burna Boy, and Goals, which features Rima, Lisa, and Anita.
Right.
And right out of the gate, our cultural journalism sources point out a really glaring irony regarding these artist lineups.
Yes, the cultural commentators immediately flagged this. The Nigerian national football team, the Super Eagles, actually failed to qualify for the 2026 tournament.
Which was a huge shock.
Their campaign collapsed entirely. And yet, Nigerian artists, specifically Rima and Burna Boy, are the central pillars of the music being used to soundtrack the most watched sporting event on the planet.
Think about how wild that is for a second. The physical team isn't there, but the country's sonic identity is quite literally the heartbeat of the entire tournament.
It's wild.
How did that even happen?
Well, it speaks volumes about the sheer gravitational pull of Afrobeats right now.
Yeah.
The article titled In Harmony breaks down this historical dynamic beautifully.
I loved this part.
Yeah, for decades, African music was frequently utilized by Western pop artists as an uncredited texture.
Right.
The journalist uses a very striking phrase they call African sounds ghosts without passports.
Ghosts without passports. That is incredibly evocative. But what does that actually look like in practice? Like, how does a sound travel without its creator?
Well, let's look at the mechanics of it. The article uses the example of the log drum. A log drum isn't just a piece of wood you hit with a stick.
Yeah.
In genres like amapiano, the log drum acts as both a deep bass line and a sharp percussive hit simultaneously.
Oh, so it's doing double duty.
Exactly. It inherently drives the hips. And for years, Western artists would take that specific sonic fingerprint, the Afro swing percussion in Beyoncé's Already, or the talking drum patterns in Rihanna's Work, or the rhythms driving Drake's massive hit One Dance.
Huge songs.
Huge. And they'd use them as an aesthetic choice. The rhythm, the feeling, and the underlying texture of the music traveled globally, but the African creators who originated those sounds were often relegated to being footnotes.
So they didn't get the visa, so to speak.
Exactly. They didn't get the visa.
But looking at the 2026 tracks, Burna Boy and Rima are very clearly not footnotes anymore. I mean, they are on the marquee.
Oh, absolutely. Look at Burna Boy's presence on Die Die with Shakira. The analysis explicitly points out that his role on this record is structural, not decorative.
He's not just a feature.
No, he isn't just dropping in for a quick bridge to add some exotic flavor. He opens his verse responding directly to Shakira. He is meeting her as an absolute equal.
Yeah, and the music video literally features him standing on top of a glowing globe.
Right. He is presenting himself as the African giant.
Okay, I have to push back here, though.
Sure.
I get the world music smoothie risk, but isn't bringing in Shakira just going back to the exact same well?
How do you mean?
Well, she essentially defined the modern World Cup anthem with Waka Waka 16 years ago. If FIFA genuinely wants the authentic sound of 2026, why recycle a legacy pop star?
That's a fair question.
Is this about pure cultural harmony, or is this just cynical boardroom math designed to hit the Latin American and sub-Saharan demographics simultaneously?
That is the essential tension of the music industry right there.
Yeah.
And the sources don't shy away from it at all. It is undoubtedly boardroom math.
I knew it!
The global music industry has a very long, very well-documented history of monetizing Black creativity for maximum profit. They know Shakira brings established trust and a guaranteed Latin American audience.
Right.
And they know Burna Boy brings a surging sub-Saharan market. However, the cultural journalists argue that, regardless of the boardroom's cynical intentions, the actual power dynamic has fundamentally shifted.
Explain that shift. Because how has the power moved if the labels are still the ones organizing the collaborations?
Because of how the distribution pipes have changed. In the past, Western labels completely controlled the global distribution of music.
Okay.
If an artist in Lagos wanted a global hit, they had to go through gatekeepers in London or Los Angeles. They needed their physical distribution networks and their radio pluggers.
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore. The proliferation of smartphones and global streaming algorithms bypassed those pipes entirely. Burna Boy and Rima built empires in Africa and Europe directly through mobile phones. They built global audiences so massive that by the time FIFA called to make a World Cup song, these artists didn't need Western validation or exposure.
So FIFA needed them.
The industry needed their metrics. As the article puts it, there is a major difference between being invited into a room and becoming the reason why the room rearranged itself.
Wow. Okay, so Burna Boy and Rima rearranged the room.
They really did.
We understand the industry economics, and we know why Shakira and Burna Boy were paired together culturally. But how does Die Die actually hold up purely as a piece of music?
That's the real test.
Because mathematically hitting demographic targets is one thing, but engineering a song that 80,000 people physically want to scream at the top of their lungs is a completely different science.
And this is where we have to dig into the YouTube analysis by songwriter Rachel Walker Mason.
Yes, I was fascinated by this.
Her breakdown of the acoustic anatomy of Die Die is brilliant. She starts by looking at the vocal placement of the two singers.
Right, she talks about the physical placement of their voices. For those of us who aren't vocal coaches, what does it actually mean when she says Shakira has a forward placement?
It has to do with which resonant chambers in the human skull the singer is utilizing.
Okay.
Walker Mason explains that Shakira pushes her voice to the very front of her mouth and into her nasal cavity.
Oh, like behind the nose.
Exactly, what singers call the mask. It makes her voice incredibly bright, forward, and twangy.
Which is very distinct.
It's what allows her to do that famous yodel, that specific vocal flip that cuts right through heavy instrumentation.
And Burna Boy is doing the exact opposite.
Completely. Burna Boy's vocal placement sits much further back and much lower in the larynx.
So it's deeper.
He's using his chest cavity to resonate the sound, which gives his voice a much lower, warmer, throatier quality.
We see.
So when you mix them together, those two extreme opposite ends of the frequency spectrum fit perfectly like puzzle pieces. The acoustic texture is flawless.
But, and this is a massive but for a song of this scale, Walker Mason has a severe critique of how the song is structurally engineered.
She does.
She argues that Die Die is missing the single most crucial ingredient of a stadium anthem.
Yes, she diagnoses it as the missing dopamine hit. Specifically, she argues the song lacks a massive vocal jump in the chorus.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack this dopamine hit. For those of us who don't read sheet music, what is a vocal jump and why does it trigger chemicals in the brain?
Walker Mason uses the specific term, a jump of a sixth.
A sixth?
Yeah. If you want to know what a sixth sounds like in the real world, think of the famous three-note NBC chimes, or the first two notes of Frank Sinatra singing My Way.
Oh, okay. I can hear that in my head.
It is a wide, sudden leap in pitch. In legendary anthems, she cites Bon Jovi's Livin' on a Prayer or Robbie Williams' Angels, the verses sit comfortably low.
Right, they start quiet.
But when that chorus hits, the melody forces the singer to make a massive physical leap in pitch.
And why does that matter to the audience? Why do we care?
Because of empathy and mirror neurons. Hitting that high note requires the singer to physically push more air out of their lungs and strain their vocal cords.
Oh, wow.
As a listener, you so consciously hear that physical exertion. The acoustic tension releases, translating into massive energy, and your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine.
So you literally feel it.
It makes you feel like you can punch the sky. It physically demands that you join in and sing along.
I love that. The physical effort of the singer triggers a physical release in the crowd. So what does Die Die do instead? Because when I listen to it, the beat is undeniably infectious.
It is, but it operates differently. Die Die masterfully builds tension in the pre-chorus.
It does. It really ramps up.
The producers use risers, drum rolls, and escalating vocals to give your brain every audio signal that an explosion is coming.
But
instead of exploding into that soaring, high-pitched chorus, it drops into what Walker Mason identifies as a post-chorus. It's a very groovy, repetitive section where the vocal melody stays completely flat on the exact same pitch.
Ugh. It's like pulling back the string of a bow as far as it will possibly go during the pre-chorus, and your brain is chemically preparing for the massive release of the arrow flying.
Great analogy.
But instead of letting the arrow fly, the archer just slowly releases the tension on the string. Your brain was promised a release, and the song denies it to you.
That is a perfect analogy. It's a highly sophisticated, rhythm-driven production choice, but it denies the listener that primal, stadium-shaking release.
Interesting.
Walker Mason even uses a really compelling color theory mapping to illustrate this. She describes the verses of Die Die as a vibrant, sunny yellow.
Okay.
As the tension builds in the pre-chorus, the song turns into a fiery orange. But because the chorus never physically lifts, because that arrow is never fired, the fireworks don't happen.
So what color is the chorus?
She calls the chorus of Die Die beige.
Ouch. A beige chorus. That is a brutal critique when you were talking about the World Cup.
It gets worse, actually. She explains that because the chorus is beige, it retroactively makes the vibrant yellow verses feel dimmer as the song loops. The listener gets fatigued because the promised payoff just never arrives.
Okay, so if Die Die is structurally sophisticated but maybe lacking that vital, universal, sing-along explosion, how does it compare to the other massive track in the 2026 rotation? I'm talking about Goals.
This brings us to a fascinating divergence in how music producers view the modern audience. Goals features Rima alongside Lisa from the massive K-pop group Blackpink and Anitta, the Brazilian superstar.
Right.
And our sources make a very clear defining distinction between these two anthems. Goals was never built to be the next Waka Waka.
Meaning it wasn't engineered for 80,000 people to sing in a stadium.
Exactly. It was engineered for the algorithm. The Culture Plus article points out that Goals is a masterclass in production designed for an audience that consumes music in 30-second TikTok clips.
Wait, so if I'm scrolling my feed right now, how does a producer actually build a song to manipulate how I scroll? What is the actual mechanism there?
It comes down to restructuring the fundamental architecture of the song. Goals was produced by Circuit and Tropculaz.
Huge producers.
Producers at that level understand that on platforms like TikTok, if a song takes 15 seconds to build up with an instrumental intro, the user has already scrolled past 5 other videos.
That's so true. I have zero attention span on there.
We all do. So they kill the intro entirely, they drop the hook at the 0-second mark, they change the sonic texture every 8 bars so your brain doesn't have time to get bored.
It's literally the musical equivalent of a targeted cross-platform ad campaign.
It really is.
You have Lisa bringing the absolute precision and the notoriously dedicated fan base of K-pop. You have Anitta bringing the sheer cultural weight of Brazil and Latin America. And you have Rima bringing the rhythm of Afrobeats.
And they are seamlessly blending those 3 continents into a single 3-minute percussion-soaked track.
Wow.
But because the track is so meticulously segmented to give each specific demographic their own 30-second highlight reel, it creates a very specific side effect.
What's the side effect?
Take Rima's verse, for example. He opens by confidently singing, "From Nigeria to Monaco."
Right. The journalism sources noted that this line was drawing a massive amount of attention. It's the energy of an artist who knows he doesn't have to introduce himself anymore. The world already knows his name.
Exactly. But the cultural frustration that bubbled up online, particularly in Nigeria, wasn't about the quality of his verse. It was about the brevity of it.
Oh, it's too short.
The article literally asked the question, the verse was good, where is the rest?
Because he only gets a fraction of the song before the algorithm demands a transition to the next demographic.
Exactly. It leaves the fans genuinely hungry for more. But the genius, or perhaps the cynicism of the production, is that from a marketing standpoint, leaving them hungry is precisely the point.
Because they replay it.
If you want more Rima, you have to hit replay. It artificially drives up the streaming numbers.
That is so calculated. So let's tie all of this together. If we look at the entire journey we've mapped out today on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
We started in 1986 with Stephanie Lawrence singing a deeply personal analog ballad to celebrate the solo heroism of Diego Maradona.
Right.
And 40 years later, we have arrived at Goals, which is a highly digital, algorithmically engineered track, ruthlessly structured to hit 3 different continental demographics in 30-second intervals to maximize streaming retention.
That is the modern reality. The academic paper explicitly notes that modern digital technology is what allows for this kind of seamless cross-continental fusion.
Right.
Goals represents the apex predator of the algorithmic anthem. It is built for a solitary streaming session, for social media highlight reels, for a user scrolling alone on their phone.
But what about the stadium?
Well, Die Day, on the other hand, is still genuinely attempting to capture that 2010 Waka Waka magic. It desperately wants to be a communal stadium anthem, even if the music theory suggests the chorus might fall slightly flat when put to the test.
Which sets up an incredible real-world collision between these two philosophies. Because ultimately, the algorithm can only tell you so much. The streaming numbers and the TikTok engagement rates can only tell you so much.
They're just numbers on a screen.
Exactly. The true, undeniable test of these tracks is going to happen on July 19th.
The World Cup final at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey.
Yes. When 80,000 living, breathing humans are packed shoulder to shoulder in that stadium and the music hits the main loudspeakers, what is actually going to happen?
That's the million-dollar question.
Will 80,000 people be able to physically sing Die Die together and generate that collective dopamine hit? Or will the track feel like it was built more for a pair of AirPods than a stadium full of people who flew across the world to feel something real?
It is the ultimate clash between the physical, communal reality of a live crowd and the isolated digital reality of modern music production.
It really is. We've seen how the World Cup anthem has completely evolved. It proves that music is the ultimate global language, but it also clearly demonstrates how the grammar of that language is constantly changing based entirely on how the technology of the day dictates we consume media.
And that raises a crucial question for you to mull over after you finish listening today.
Oh, I like where this is going.
As these producers and these anthems become incredibly advanced at fusing every global genre, Latin pop, K-pop, Afrobeats, into a single, perfectly calculated 3-minute track designed to mathematically please every algorithm and demographic on Earth.
Yeah.
Do we risk creating a new genre of music that theoretically belongs to absolutely everyone but feels like it comes from nowhere at all?
Wow. A genre that belongs to everyone but comes from nowhere. That is a heavy, fascinating thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the engineering behind the sound of 2026. Keep your ears open, keep questioning the underlying mechanics of the music you hear around you, and the next time you're in a crowd waiting for that unifying beat to drop, ask yourself, are you genuinely feeling the music, or was the music just perfectly engineered to make you feel? Catch you next time.